Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining today's live. I am Raquel Toussaint, and I am so glad to be here. Yes, we are live, and let's see, we have about two people in the room so far. So, welcome. Thanks for joining us. I just want to say a happy Sunday afternoon to everyone. It's been a week. Well, last week has been a week, and I have a busy week ahead of me. So, I know that a lot of people do also, and it's been a little rough today with daylight savings. I wouldn't say that it's been rough because I think we did get an extra hour of sleep, so I should be well rested. But I did a lot today, just trying to get ready for the week and cleaning the house, organizing, and all of that. So all of that is partially done, but I wanted to come on for our Sunday night live. So again, thank you for joining us today. This is the number one place on the internet to get your career and HR questions answered. So again, thanks for joining. And if you are a community member here with us, welcome back. But if you're new, do consider subscribing to my channel, Raquel Toussaint. And like I said, it is the number one place to get your career and HR questions answered. So I have a good life for you today. We are talking about quitting your job, and just some things that you should consider. But before we get to that, I did have a few questions that came into our form on our website, some HR questions that I want to be sure that I answer. But if you're new here, there are two ways that you can get your questions answered while I'm live. The first one is actually clicking on the Q&A link in the description box. But since I'm live and I'm here, you can definitely type your questions into the chat, and I'll be sure that I answer those questions while I'm live. So that is the quickest way. Just let me know in the chat if you have an HR career question, or if you want your question answered and you're watching the replay of this, you can actually click on the link in the form and just type in your question there. All righty. So I see I have three in the room. Thanks for joining. Let me know where you are from. Type it into the chat and let me know where you're tuning in from so that I know that you are out there. Again, thanks for joining. So let's jump right into our questions that came in to the form. All righty. So we have Sarah's White. She's asked the question, how do you stand out at work in the first 30 days working 100% virtually? And this is a great question because it's actually on my list of videos to make and get that out there, because I do get that question asked a lot. There are some resources here on YouTube, but I just think the way that they explain it is great, but it could be better. So I actually work 100% remote myself. And as we hire new employees into the organization, I wouldn't say that I feel bad for them, but I kind of do in a way, because I've been at my company, at my job, for way before the pandemic. And it was easy to kind of make your mark and show what you can do and get to know the company culture and everyone at the company when you're face to face. But now that so many companies are going 100% virtual, as a new employee coming in, it's a little scary, especially if you're leaving a job that you know your coworkers, and you've built up that confidence in your boss. They know what you can do, and now you're going somewhere completely new, and you're gonna have to get to build the trust of your new boss and just build relationships over a computer. So that can be very difficult. And I would answer that question and say, one thing I think you can do is definitely schedule some time and one-on-ones with your team members, that small group of people that you work with. Definitely schedule some one-on-ones with them, get to know them, just get to know what they do, so that you can know who your resources are. definitely take notes, write people's names down, because, like I said, you're working virtually, so it's really easy to forget who is who. And nothing's worse than getting on a call with someone and have them having to introduce themselves over and over to you. It's definitely easier when you're in person, right? Because you're seeing people as you go and get coffee in the break room and things like that. You get to know people's name. You hear other people calling that person by their name, but virtually it gets a little difficult. Even though on Zoom and all those webinar software, you see the person's name, but you do want to write down different things about what the person does, if they have kids, all of that, so that you can reference that at a later time. Just your simple, basic things on, building rapport and getting to know someone. So definitely schedule one-on-ones and get to know who you're working with. And I would say second, definitely if you are in a position where you have to produce deliverables and projects and things like that, make sure that you're giving it 100% of your effort, right? You are not in person. Your boss is not going to get to know you on a personal level, but they get to know your work, right? Your work product. So be sure that whatever you turn in via email or whatever, if you're turning in spreadsheets or presentation or everything within that first 30 days on the job, you want to be sure that you are giving it your best, producing your best work, so that your manager is building that confidence in you and they get to know who you are and what you come to bring to the organization. So within that first 30 days, if you do have projects that you have to submit. And I would also say, don't feel like you have to talk all the time on meetings within your first 30 days, right? Don't feel like in order to stand out, you always have to be the one saying something on your video calls, especially when you are in a call with team, if you're on a team call. Definitely sometimes when you're new, I always encourage people to sit back and really just listen, right? Listen to get to know what the culture is. And then once you have something thoughtful to say and to bring to the conversation, definitely let them know. And then also don't ever compare where you were as far as your last company to what your current company is doing. So that's what I would say within the first 3 days as far as virtually standing out. I know that it's very difficult. And like I said, I see new employees coming in all the time where I work, and I'm just like, I know that it's difficult for them. So people like me who's been there for a while, I always try to put them at ease and to kind of help them ingrain themselves into the workplace and the culture. So if you are not the new person and you've been there before, or you're there currently like I am, definitely know that there are people coming into that virtual space that just might need someone to be nice to them. So that was a great question. All righty, as you come on in, let me know where you're tuning in from. I see that oh, I have a comment here. We have Life with Meso tuning in from Long Beach, California. So thanks for joining. Thanks for joining. All right. So the second question that I got that came in through the form, and like I said, if you're just tuning in, if you have any HR career questions, type them into the chat and I'll be sure that I answer them today. Alrighty, so the second question that came in through the form is, how do I send a rebuttal on a write-up? Alrighty, so as I work in HR, I see that all the time. I've been in HR for a little bit over 15 years, right? And I'm usually involved with a manager that has to give an employee a corrective action, whether that be for attendance, performance. And, most companies should have a non-retaliatory policy, not, basically giving manager guidelines to let them know that even though you present an employee with corrective action, they also have the right to submit a rebuttal. And then usually the policy goes over the process of how to submit a rebuttal. But if you're working at a small company, there might not be a complete guidelines of how to submit a rebuttal if you've given corrective action. So the first thing that I would say is really think if you want to submit that rebuttal, like, do you have ground to stand on, right? Were you written up for something that was not correct, was not fair? Do you have evidence to prove that before you submit your rebuttal? Just submitting a rebuttal that says, I don't agree with this, and it's pretty general, usually that never works, because that manager would have worked with HR and maybe upper level management, and they've concluded that they want to give you that corrective action, and they have examples. So if you're coming with a rebuttal, definitely have examples that lean in your favor of why they should either change or just get rid of that write-up. So I would say the best thing to do when submitting a rebuttal to a write-up is to put it in writing. Write a proposal of why you were, give the facts, state the facts at first, why you were written up, when, who presented it to you, and let them know that you don't agree with it, and here's why. So you can give some examples, like I said, to go into your favor of why you think that write-up should be thrown out. And then also definitely let them know in that rebuttal of your accomplishments and the things that you have been doing well also, because you don't want the rebuttal to be completely negative, which, it's hard not to, but definitely let them know what your accomplishments are. And when you're submitting that rebuttal, depending on your company, I would recommend either submitting it directly to HR, or you could submit it to your boss's boss, someone that your boss reports to, or even higher up the chain. I would definitely say what I tell employees not to do this. I tell them not to submit a rebuttal to like the president or the CEO of the company. Don't skip HR. Don't skip your boss's boss. Don't skip like 10 people and then go straight to the head of the company. I see it all the time because I know emotions are involved. So it's a hard thing not to want to take it all the way to the top. And that you may eventually have to do that, but start with HR, if you trust HR, and also your manager's manager. Start there, and then if you don't get any feedback, then you can kind of take it up the ladder from there. All righty, so I have Court. Thanks for joining us. And then we have a question in the chat. Okay. So Life with Meso says, I've been working in accounts payable for the last 4 years. However, I'm graduating in May with my bachelor's in HR. How would I go about making the move in HR with no experience? Oh, that's a great question. I've made a couple of videos on this topic. So if you're not subscribed here, definitely subscribe to the channel and look through those. But it's a great question. And I would say, I always tell people that are trying to get into HR, it's not the easiest field to get into. And the reason I say that, but it is possible. And I'm going to tell you how it is possible. And if you've been following me, there's a video that I did. And I think the thumbnail, the picture of that video says never give up, because I was in that position where my degree is not in HR. And when I got out of college, I didn't have an HR job waiting for me. I was actually working at Target. And I was able to make that transition. And I go through that story in that video. But I always say that HR is a sort of difficult field to get into because a lot of companies, especially small to mid-sized companies, only have like 1 or 2 HR people. And then as you get up to like bigger companies, I'm at a pretty large organization. There are about 60 people that are in HR. But it is difficult because there are a lot of people that are trying to get in, and like I said, not many positions. But what you can do is definitely think of your transferable skills. So you're in accounts payable, right? I'm sure that you are dealing with employees or even vendors, right? Dealing with vendors and having to make those payouts. You are talking to people, right? So think of all your people skills within your job, right? Do you have to manage conflict in accounts payable, right? I'm sure you do, right? When expenses have to be paid and sometimes you have to say, no, we can't reimburse for that expense or something like that. You could use that conflict management skills in your potential HR resume as well. And then also think about the courses that you've taken for your bachelor's degree, right? I'm sure that they're not all well, you said your bachelor's is in HR, so definitely hone into all those skills that you learned within your coursework as well. Now, if you look at the video that I made on getting into HR and never giving up, how I got into HR is that I took an internship. It was a part-time internship. I don't know if that's something that you could potentially do because I know not everyone can do that financially. I was just in a position at the time where I was able to do that. So I took that job part-time in HR, and then it transitioned into a full-time HR position. And then my career kind of grew from there. So definitely look at part-time opportunities, internship opportunities within HR. You might not land a full-time job in HR right out of the bat. And then also another thing that you can do is if you're currently working in accounts payable and there's an HR department at your company, get with the HR manager or the HR person there. Ask if there are any projects that you can help with. Definitely check with your manager first to see if that's okay. But definitely look into projects that you can help with, that you can volunteer your time, all of that. I actually have an HR generalist that works with me now at the current company that I'm at. And she wasn't in HR before she came over to my team, but she did that same thing. Like she worked in our another department, and she had contacted me and emailed me and said, is there anything I can help with? I have extra time. I've checked with my manager. So there was a project that she was helping me on an ongoing basis. And I saw that and I was just like blown away that, she would dedicate that extra time to kind of help the department. So when I had an open position for someone, I interviewed external candidates, and she actually applied for the HR position that I had, but I just knew that she had done such a great job on the projects that I assigned her that I gave her the chance to come into HR. So there are multiple ways, but definitely transferable skills, looking at internship, part-time opportunities, and even looking within the company that you're in, I think will be great. It is a great field. I love what I do. Many HR people love what they do. So kudos to you for getting your bachelor's in HR. I don't have my bachelor's in HR, but I definitely think having that education puts you a step ahead of many HR folks who don't have a degree in HR. So thanks for your question. That was awesome. All righty. So I actually have one more question that came in on the form. It is from John Basin. He asked how to ask for a raise. So that's actually a video that I did here on this channel, like how to ask for a pay increase. So definitely, John, if you're watching, tune in and watch that video, but I'm going to answer the question now. So in that video, how to ask for a pay raise, there are three things that I pointed out. One, it's all about timing, right? When you're asking for a pay increase at work, you don't want to do it, if your company has a hiring freeze, or it's the end of the year and that's when they're doing budgeting and all of that stuff, it might not be the best time. Or if the company is not doing well, like with profits and they're just having a hard time, that might not be the best time to ask, right? Maybe at the beginning of the year, once budgets are final and all of that. So just kind of feel out where the company is at when it comes to the right time to ask for a raise. That's one thing. And then two, when I talk about timing, also, try to do it around maybe your performance review time. If you do get regular performance reviews, especially if you have a stellar performance review, that would be a great time to ask for a pay increase as well. Also, when you're asking for a pay increase, and I've done this even for myself personally, write a proposal. If it's not during performance review time, or even if it is, it's good to write your manager and even copy HR on why you think, or ask them for a raise and why you think that you deserve an increase. And then I always say, be direct. Just don't ask for a raise, right? Because if you ask for any raise, I mean, they can give you 25 cents, like ask for something realistic, right? If you're trying to get $1 more or $2 more, ask for exactly what you want. If you're trying to get $10,000 more, you're trying to go from 60 to 70,000, ask them, say, this is where I am currently, and this is where I want to be. And these are the reasons why, and these are the things that I have accomplished. And this is what I bring to the team. So definitely in that proposal, go over all your accomplishments for the last year, go over the skills that you've gained. So if over the last year, you've learned to do something new in a computer software, or something, they've relied on you more so for customer service or working more accounts than other people, definitely point that out in the proposal. But I would say definitely be careful when you're writing that as well, because you don't want it to seem like every single thing that I do, I want more money. So think about like the big accomplishments that you've had. Not the little things, like if it's something little, like, I was, able to restock, like these 50 shells or something like that, like nothing small, because then it looks like you only work for extra money. And in reality, a company doesn't want to think that you're only there for the money. When in most cases, it's kind of like a game, right? You are going for money. You're going to work to be able to financially support your family, and you would like a lot of it, but you don't want it to come across that way. So definitely don't go tit for tat. And this is every little single thing that I've done. Even if you just think of 5 big accomplishments when asking for a pay raise, that's usually the best thing. And like I said, right, type up a proposal, make it warm, make it friendly, let them know what you want, be direct. And then also think of, like, if they come back and they say, we can only give you, maybe half of what you're asking for, are you going to be okay with it? So just get your mind into the mind frame that they might say no. And if they say no and they maybe cut what you're asking for in half, maybe you ask for additional training, or for them to pay for you to get certified or something like that. Or maybe there's another benefit at the company that you would like. So definitely have a plan B in mind as well. But John, if you're watching, definitely go scroll through my channel page and you will see that video on asking for an increase. I actually go into more detail in that video. All righty, so we do have a question in the chat. So Court asks, do you have any recommendations for those who have been laid off or looking for another opportunity? I was previously working as an HR generalist. So yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm sure that you're applying for positions now. There was a point of time where I was looking for a position. I wasn't laid off, but I was in between jobs. And I don't know if you have a premium, or if you can, if you want to pay for a premium subscription to LinkedIn, but that really helped me. I think it was maybe back then $40 a month, but it was great because I was able to get starred in. So when companies posted positions, I was able to get to maybe the top of the line when you have that LinkedIn premium subscription. And then I think you can send in-mails, which is like their private chat. So definitely look into a premium subscription of LinkedIn. It definitely bumps up your career search. Make sure that your profile on LinkedIn is updated. More and more HR jobs, like recruiters that are recruiting in HR, they're recruiting on LinkedIn. Not Indeed, not Career Builder, not ZipRecruiter. I'm seeing it more and more that those professional positions are going to LinkedIn. So definitely get a premium subscription. Definitely network, check your network, check staffing companies. And in the meantime, maybe as you're looking, if you're not certified yet, if you don't have your PHR or your SPHR, maybe this is a time when you have downtime to study for a test like that. So that if someone asks what you were doing in that gap while you were looking for a position, you can say, I was studying for a certification. I took time off from work to study and I passed, and you have a good story to tell, so that you don't have to say, I was laid off and I was looking. Definitely, if you haven't, apply for unemployment so that you have some money coming in. But another thing that I would say, is maybe if you have the ability and the confidence, you could do some freelance work as well in HR. I know there's a site called HR Lancers, or even if you're not an HR, this is for other people, right? You can do some consulting work on the side as well. So definitely think of those things. But definitely, if you can have a study plan for a certification while you're looking, that might help as well. All righty. Charity is tuning in from Dallas, Texas. Thanks for joining, Charity. All righty. I love your picture. All righty. So that was the end of the questions that I got into the form. But before, I do want to transition and let you guys know that I actually put out a video on, I think it was Thursday evening, and it was going through the thought process on quitting your job. So you can see right here. Oh, here. I just put the picture of that video. It's on my channel. And I think the title of it is, Are You Really Ready to Quit Your Job? So it's Should You Quit Your Job? So if you haven't tuned into that or seen that video, definitely check it out. I thought it was a good video to make, especially now that we're coming up towards the end of the year. A lot of professionals are trying to decide whether or not they want to stay where they at, or maybe at the beginning of the year, they want to start looking for something new. So I thought it was a great video to make, especially at this time. So I think at this time of the year, we're either setting goals, right? We're getting ready for the new year. We're trying to set goals. And one of those goals, I know I do. I have personal and I have professional goals. And I know that there are people out there that professionally, they are in a crossroads and they don't know if they should stay at their job, if they should leave. So what I did is I made that video, and in that video, there were 5 points that I made in thinking about if you should leave your job. So in that video, I definitely stated that a decision, right, should not be taken lightly. If you're going to leave your job, you really need to put some thought into it, and then also make sure that you're not listening to a whole bunch of people, especially other disgruntled coworkers that might not be happy with the company. You definitely don't want them to sway you, because this is a personal decision. So before I jump into those points that I made, we do have one more question in the chat. So hello, I have my bachelor's, and this is from Charity. I have my bachelor's in business with a certification in HR. I have no experience in HR, but looking to go into entry-level HR. How can I go about breaking into the field? I'm having a hard time. Sorry to hear that, Charity. But I said earlier in the live as well that it's hard. It's hard to get into HR. It was difficult for me. I tried to transition. After college, I worked at Target, and I worked in their sales management program, and I knew I wanted to get into HR. It was difficult for me, and that was in 2002, 2007. Yes. Yes, 2007. And it was difficult back then because, like I said, a lot of companies just don't have a whole lot of HR positions. Unfortunately, HR is looked at as an expense to a lot of companies. So they don't just have five HR people until they start to grow. So it's a little difficult, but like I mentioned earlier, look at the transferable skills that you have. So I don't know the type of job that you're working in now, but think of your people management skills that you use at that job. So if you're working in retail, think of the things that you deal with on a regular basis when it comes to people. If you have some type of conflict management, right? That's like, to me, the number one skill to have working in HR: conflict management. So just think of your experience, right? If you think of where you're working at now and where have you worked in the past, if you have conflict management skills, definitely put that on your resume. And then as you're interviewing, think of the stories and ways that you can give some context around your conflict management skills. So think of transferable skills. Also, what I did is I took a part-time job in HR. That's how I got into the field. I was having a difficult time finding a full-time HR position. And so I stopped competing. I stopped competing with all the other HR people that were looking for full-time jobs. And then I said, I don't think many people are looking for part-time jobs. So I just started looking for a part-time something. And it was paying enough where I could still pay my bills on a part-time basis, but I did have to make some sacrifices. But it was only for like 6 months. And the company that I was working at part-time, they actually moved me to a full-time position, because when I got there, I was like, I'm part-time, but I'm going to prove to them that they need me here full-time. So think about part-time positions, internships to break into the field as well. And then I also mentioned, if you're currently working for a company that has an HR department, volunteering to help them with projects as well, so that you can get your feet wet. And then on your resume, you can say that you did some HR work as well. Or maybe that same company will bring you over in HR if you show them that you're really determined and you have that drive to move into the field. So great question, Charity. Alrighty. Court says, I'm not sure if this would be helpful, but I went to networking events and joined a formal mentorship program and received my first HR job through that. Definitely. I didn't mention that, but Court, I think that is great advice. Networking. I know that some events that you go to, you kind of feel like it's not worth the time, but most of the times it is. People are out there trying to talk to other people, get to know, people within the field. Oh, I didn't mention, I'm a part of this Facebook group. It's for HR practitioners. Join Facebook groups as well. They're HR people that have groups. I think this one is for HR people in Atlanta. You can join that one even if you don't live in Atlanta, or other HR groups in your cities. Facebook groups. Facebook groups are so powerful. You don't have to go anywhere to network. You can network within a Facebook group. That's the beauty of having that virtual networking. Alrighty. Thanks for that advice, Court. Alrighty. Court also said, I also joined the National Black MBA Association HR committee. Yes, that's a good one. And that has been a great place to meet HR folks. So awesome. Thanks, Court. And you're here also. I'm an HR person as well. So, if you want to contact me for, any additional advice, my email should be in the description box as well. Okay, so I see that we have more people joining the live. So if you're new here, tell me where you're tuning in from. I am Raquel Toussaint, and this is the number one place on the internet to get your career and HR questions answered. So like I was saying, before I went back to the chat, if you see right here, I always get mixed up with the direction of that picture. Yeah. Should I quit? Yes or no? I made a video Thursday night release that on the thought process of going through if you should quit your job or not. So, like I said, some of the things that I mentioned are in that video is going through the thought process to see why you really want to quit your job. So it's like I said, it's the end of the year. People are really making choices if they want to stay where they're at their company, or if they want to leave at the beginning of the year. So I thought that that video will be helpful, especially at this point of the year. We're in November. You might want to begin to start your thought process on what you want to do at the beginning of the year. So I've mentioned to think about why you're really wanting to quit, why you really have those thoughts in your mind. And I kind of went through some details and some things that you should look for or think about. And then I also went through the thought process on, like, if you really are you bored at your current job. So I talked about that. And then also, are you not learning anything at your job? So I went into much detail on that as well. Also, I talked about silent quitting. So if you're not familiar with that topic, silent quitting is people that are actually at their job currently. They're doing just enough, like the bare minimum, so that they don't get written up or they don't get fired. But they just stop caring about their job. They want to be somewhere else. They may want to be at home. Maybe those are people that used to work remotely during the pandemic. Now they're back in the office and they really want to be at home, or they just want to be in another space, right? So I talked about silent quitting, more about that in the video. And then the last thing I talked about is if leaving your job will create a career setback for you, and then also what happens next. Do you have a plan B? Are you going to get a new job, or are you going to take off some time? And then I also talked a little bit about the toxic environment. If you're in a toxic environment, if it's giving you some more of mental anguish, right? If you're at a position that's so toxic that even though you like what you do and you like everything that you do, the environment, your manager, whoever, coworkers, they're just creating a bad environment for you. So I talked a little bit more about that in the video. So what I'm going to do is link that video in the description box. I highly recommend that you watch it. It's not too long. I think it's 8 minutes. And so what's coming next for this week is because I did that video. So that video was more about going through the thought process. It's the end of the year, if you are thinking of quitting. And then also in that video, there was a link to a quit quiz. So it's a quiz that I came up with that's on my website, but the video actually has the link to the quiz. And there are 10 questions that go over like your work environment, how you're feeling, if you're learning anything, all of that stuff. So you answer 10 questions, and then at the end, based on your results, it lets you know if you're maybe in a position where you should leave or you should stay put. So definitely check that video out. But that video was going through the thought process. So this week, I'll be releasing a video on, okay, you've made the decision to leave. How do you resign and kind of get ready to resign, right? So there are a lot of videos on YouTube that just talks about how you quit a job. But what I'm going to do is to kind of help you through that thought process before you actually turn in your notice, to turning in a notice. And I'll have some templates of resignation letters, and then how to do it professionally and leave with class. And how to transition your responsibilities before you leave. So if that video is something that you think it could be your jam, definitely subscribe and you'll get a notification. Subscribe and then turn on all notifications, and then you'll get a notification once I release that video. So that's what I have planned for the channel this week, how to quit your job professionally and with class. So stay tuned for that. I don't see any more questions in the chat, and I've answered all the questions in the form. So I just want to thank you guys for joining me today on my Sunday Night Live. Again, this is the #1 place to get your career and HR questions answered. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe, join the community because I have some wonderful videos coming up. I have about 70 videos that I've released so far here on my channel. So I'm not new to YouTube by any, I've been here I've had a channel for over 2 years, and we have a lot of great content coming up for the new year. So I hope that you can join me. For the rest of the evening, I'm just going to watch football, and then I'm a Walking Dead fan, so I'm going to watch Walking Dead a little bit later and just get myself and the kids ready for the week coming. So I just want to let everyone know again, thank you for joining, and I hope you have a great work week, and a great week personally as well. And I will see you guys at this time next Sunday at 6 p.m. All right. Thank you. Bye.